Yes, 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 yes. It is Sunday. And this is the check-in. And I'm your boy, Heat Detector.
What's up, man? It's your boy Jizzo.
Yeah, that's it. No Jizzle for Shizzle, no productions and
We'll do that at the end.
all right. Shout out to that. Yeah, and this is the check-in. You want to give them the your digs?
Yeah, for sure, man. Quick disclaimer for y'all sensitive motherfuckers. We are not licensed therapists or psychologists, so we're just, some homies on the show talking about things that affect mental health, men's mental health, everybody's mental health. And just try to give y'all tools. And
if you daydream of bunny rabbits and unicorns and you're thin-skinned, you get offended easy or anything like that, just change the goddamn channel. Don't report us, don't flag us, don't do anything like that. We're just talking truths, our truths. We're talking about our journeys, and sometimes these journeys they're not easy. They're not for the timid. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is we're looking for resolution. We're looking for things to help us heal from the stuff that we've been through in our lives. And I know that we aren't the only ones that have been through this shit, because show me the man that's never been through shit and he's a fucking liar. You know what I'm saying? And like today, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about today. I was low-key dependent on you, as I had the thought, and then the thought had slipped past me. But
I tried to talk about it earlier, but I think that we said that we weren't going to talk about like what we've already talked about. If y'all missed last week's show, it was one of the reoccurring topics that we've had about, like, a woman recording a man about the money and stuff, and this not being enough and that not being enough, and how it ties into like mental health. I'm trying to remember what it was that I told you over the phone earlier, but I think it had something to do with rejection.
Right. That's a good segue. That's a good segue, because what we could talk about is something I think everybody can relate to. When is a relationship not worth working for?
Like the sizzle?
Yeah, like the sizzle in the steak. Yeah, when is a relationship not worth working for? You know what I'm saying? What do you think?
Relationship.
What do you think a relationship? The basis of a relationship. Like what do you think makes a relationship worth working for? Like, if you have problems, because we all have problems in relationships. Relationships are not easy. Relationships with friends is not easy. Relationships with your family members, it's not easy. Relationships with your significant other is not easy. But what makes it worth it to fight for it?
One thing that my dad told me once was, we were talking about clearly one of my failed relationships or whatever it was, and he was saying how, like, you're never gonna find somebody that's perfect. Every person has their flaws. You just have to decide, can I deal with this person's flaws? Because nobody's gonna be perfect, but like, does the good outweigh the bad? Like, are you, does it outweigh the bad? So that just goes to show, like, it just depends, like, on what the situation is. Like, I mean, when you get married, you say till death do us part. So right there,
but people don't honor that shit anymore. People don't honor that shit, and even still,
people don't.
Well, because they don't. I mean, if you look at the divorce rate nowadays, it's like higher than it's ever been, ever. And I don't think people know the value of relationships. I don't think people understand the values of relationship. And like I said, that could be with a friend, that could be family members, that could be anybody. Because even when we talk about on the show, we talk about having stability and having somebody to talk to. Those people that are in your relationships that you have, that's important to have that in a relationship, to have relationships with people like that people that you can rely on, people that you can talk to, people that you can I don't know, cry with, you know what I'm saying? Smile with, happy, have fun with, go through times and, even help you through dark times. You know what I'm saying? I speak highly of you about that yourself, and I love you for it. I was going through some shit and it had a whole mental meltdown, and my man's drove from Milwaukee, like out of nowhere, just and got here quick as fuck. And that sits with me really hard, really hard. You know what I'm saying? And when people, I've had people say things to me, and I don't give a fuck what they say, because the fact that you did that and you didn't have to, it said a lot to me as far as my relationship with you and how I deal with you, and how it sits with me, and it's gonna sit with me forever because of that particular time in my life. And you showed up and you were there. You didn't ask no questions. You didn't say, motherfucker, I drove all this way. You didn't say none of that shit. You were just there. And man, nobody can take that shit. And so that's what I mean about relationships. Like, is what are relationships worth fighting for? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'll fuck with you. Yeah, you worth fighting for. I'll fight with you. Let's go. You know what I mean? Somebody fuck with you, I'm fucking with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, not fucking with them like that. We gonna get down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because that shit sits with me. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I mean, like, just for people that may not understand, when I say it sits with me, it's like it doesn't matter to me what anybody says. It doesn't matter to me what people think. The fact that what this man did sits with me on my heart. And can't nobody take that. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody does that shit. You'd be hard pressed to find a friend or somebody who would just drop, I'm talking about in the middle of the goddamn night, drop what the fuck they're doing and not give a fuck about anything else, and be there by your side, not even knowing what they're walking into.
Yeah, no, and I feel you on that, man. I've been in, and I do it again, and I've been in that situation in the vice versa, and and I've have this friend, and sometimes people talk ill about him, or I've had family members tell me like, oh, why you still talk to that person or whatever, and I try to tell them like, man, y'all don't get it. Like when I had nothing, when I had like a bus pass in my pocket and I needed to get to shows, they were there. When I needed this, they were there. Like, so it's kind of like I understand like what you're saying on that. And that's why, like, I see sometimes people that have like these huge circles, and I think, fuck, how does that work? Because, my circle is just, I keep it small. And the people that I've had, they've been there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 years. So it's important to keep that, man. Like, not burn your bridges. I see some people that like jump from place to place. You can see them, they go from state to state or from team to team or whatever it is, and it's just like, yeah, they're like burning bridges along the way as they go, and to try to like solidify like keeping like good relationships, I had to like change like the way I acted. Like, sometimes I'll still get triggered and say some shit online that I probably shouldn't be saying. But at the same time, I've been through that shit before. I've had those situations and I used to react like stupid and say stupid shit online. And I started realizing that a lot of it is just communication and being able to, like, I've landed jobs because of that. I've had someone talk sassy to me on a job about a job, and then I respond like professional, and then they give me the job. Like, communication. Like, yeah, I had to change like how I communicated with people to try to make sure that the relationships I do have, I keep them and I don't fuck them up. Like,
right. And then communication is key in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Good, bad, or indifferent. Communication is like the cornerstone of a relationship, at least in my eyes. I mean, if you can't communicate with the person, you have nothing.
It needs to be. I'm Aquarius, and Aquariuses are known for, fucking not wanting to talk about things at the moment or whatever, like pushing away from like the subject or getting back to it. And yeah, I just learned like communication is key in my personal relationships and stuff like that. Like talking about shit, that shit's important. And being able to talk about it, because before it'd just be like, man, fuck you.
Right.
Whatever, whether it was a girlfriend, a cousin, or something, whatever, fuck you then. Like,
but even in a relationship, I think it's key that, like, okay, we're talking about communication and everything, but even if the other person doesn't know how to communicate, or even whatever if you're only looking at it, let's say if you're only looking at it from your perspective, right?
Yeah.
And you're not being introspective, right? You're saying, oh, this person doesn't communicate, this person doesn't do shit. I think in order for the communication to even have a foundation, you got to first look at yourself. Like, even like, so to tie it all in relationships, like going into them, and you think, is this worth the fight? Is it worth it? Like, if I talk about my relationship with you, is it worth it to me to argue and fight with you to remain your friend? Yeah, it is. To me, it is. But when I do that, I also have to be introspective to myself and understand and know, okay, in a relationship, I bring this amount of faults and this amount of shit too. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just, you know, I told my daughter today, as a matter of fact, shout out to Mia Tortilla, my boogie. There's 3 lines or three roads in relationships and in communication, right? You got your side, my side, and in the dead center is the honest 100% truth. So you're going to have your perspective, I'm going to have my perspective of how things are, but in the dead center is going to be the truth. The absolute truth is in the dead center. So, and this is what I was telling my daughter, is as long as you know, I told her, as long as you know that you don't have any bad intent and you are cool and you are communicating your thoughts, your feelings about it, whatever the situation may be, you're already ahead of the game. But you can't force the other person to, but you can lay the foundation. So it's cool. I think it's important in relationships that even if you're going into it and the other person is being aggressive or being resistant or being anything like that, you got to look at yourself introspectively. Maybe you're just communicating with them wrong. Maybe you're doing something that, you know, is rubbing them the wrong way. You know what I mean? But because there's always 2 sides to everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and one of them's more like for instance, like I was going through a situation and I remember calling you and saying like, hey, look, this and this just happened a little while ago. And do you think I fucked up? Because I was like, I had to look at it. I said to myself, I'm going to do things different this time around with all my situations. And I said to myself, well, if this person's genuinely upset at how I handled this shit, like, was I wrong? And I wanted to actually get the answer. And that's why, like, I remember calling you and asking you about it. Like, you think I'm wrong for this shit? Like, and I even went on and fucking read something online. Like, I looked up the question on Reddit and someone had went through the same thing. And I said to myself, you know what? I do got to handle this shit different.
Right.
I apologized, and I fucking handle it different now. I don't do that same thing that I used to do. Because it's like, you know, that shit just doesn't work. I realize it doesn't work. It bothers, and, you know, just not going to do it.
Yeah, and part of the steak being worth the sizzle to me, I think, is that when you recognize these things and you put your foot forward, you have to, like, you have to really think, like, okay, you're looking at this person or whatever, and you have to really think to yourself, is this going to be worth it in the end? Is this relationship worth it? Is my relationship with Jizzle going to be worth it a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? You know, is he going to be able to deal with me? Am I going to be able to deal with him? You know what I'm saying? And shout out Ill for real. Is he going to be able to deal with me? Am I going to be able to deal with him down the line? I mean, I look at it oh, look who is in the building.
There he is. Special appearance.
Yes. What's happening, my bro?
Bless y'all, bless, man. I was just enjoying
you can
the
put
show.
it in the middle if you could.
I think that it's complicated because we have, and I think many people in many situations, we have a working relationship. I'm not talking about just one thing. We have a working relationship, but we're also friends. And I think like when that shit collides, like there's always like there's that collision of that, of being friends and then also working together. And, you know, communication. And a lot of people, that happens in a lot of people's situation. And I said that to say about what you were saying about the 5 years. You never know, because some people's work relationship gets in the way of like personal relationship, and like and maybe vice versa and shit. Groups break up and shit like that. Like,
Well, you make adjustments, and like, and
that's why we say communication.
And
is-
shout out
is
to D Nick, and shout out to the Microphone Misfits. We kind of stole your steak. Is the steak worth the sizzle? You know, in this conversation. I mean, I love that. I love that saying. I use it all the time. But I'm not even lying to you. But is it like, that's like kind of like the whole premise of the show tonight? Like, if you're in a relationship with your family member, your friends, your significant other or whatever, and you're going through issues, or you know, or you have long-standing issues, is the steak worth the sizzle? That's like the question. And like, is it worth it to work on it? Because we all know relationships are difficult. They're not easy. You know what I mean? Being in any type of relationship it's not easy. You're gonna have ups. You're gonna have downs.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have stagnant times. You're gonna have times that are sad. You're gonna have all of these things need to be dealt. Not, I don't know if I want to use the word dealt with, but they need to be. What's the word? Like looked at or confronted or whatever. Because I think when you leave those things lingering and you don't find any resolution, it just causes more problems in the end. Or if you have someone who is deflecting or running instead of communicating, it causes even more problems. You know what I'm saying? And like, I don't know. I'm a communicator. Like I'm not gonna say I love talking, but I'm one of those people that once I get going, it's like, man, and especially now since I've been clear of alcohol, it's like.
Well, you're an artist and you got a show, so
Yeah.
you guys got. So yeah, you love talking.
But even in my personal life, like if I'm feeling something, I can't just hold it in. If I'm feeling angry or upset or frustrated or something, I just can't hold that shit in. And I have to, especially if I care about somebody and I you know, love them, or you know, fuck with them or rock with them or whatever you want to call it.
Well, my question would be, how do you let it out? Do you just let it out unfiltered, or are you just letting it out? You know, like,
that's an amazing question.
You know, like, you know, because you know, I'm glad my sessions are wrapped up, so I'm a little more relaxed.
Right.
You know, I can just go in and check on my boys tomorrow, so I'm not really. I don't have like hardcore intense groups.
I'll answer that for you, D Nick. I had a situation where we were filming a cipher, and about a year ago, and I got into an argument with one of my team members, and I raised my voice. I got fucking pissed off because of whatever the situation was, and I raised my voice. And then
rappers will bring it out of you. Rappers will bring that out of you.
Oh, yeah.
And but you know, this is like this guy's like my teammate. He's on the team or whatever. I'm not gonna say no names. And I got fucking pissed off, and I like jumped out my body talking loud. And then I caught myself after. I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't be talking to him like that. We should have better communication. And I went over and I apologized to him. I said, hey, bro, look, man, I'm sorry, bro. I did not mean to like raise my voice at you. You know, I got upset because you did this. This is how I communicated it to him. I said, I got upset because you did this while we were supposed to be doing this. And my bad, bro. I should have just like said it to you different. And ever since then, like, you know, it had never really happened before. But even after that moment, I said to myself, yeah, I got to be able to communicate and talk with a regular fucking tone. I'm not going to be yelling at nobody, or, you know, which I shouldn't be.
I got you. Yeah. No, definitely. You know, it's interesting the way you just describe which was dope, the way you described your apology. We're like, as counselors, we're trained to make them not give the reason unless you're asked the reason that you flipped out. So like, if, you know, there's a reason why we, you know, any of us, self-included, we get mad and we flip out and da 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 da. But you know, if we're apologizing, we're trained to just apologize in a tone and not give the reason. If they didn't ask for it, it is not for us to give it, because what tends to happen is we tend to use that as an excuse, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It's just kind of our natural way of, but it doesn't virtue signal to the person who the offense was committed on to that we're genuinely sorry,
Right.
because they'll just hear your reason, as like an excuse or a justification why you flipped on them. And that was a challenge for me. That was tricky for me. Whereas like when we go through the training, it's like, you know, if they did something and I went out of bounds, in my reaction, whether I was right or not, if I was wrong, just apologize for being wrong. You know what I'm saying? Just apologize for being wrong.
I feel
And
like if you do
unless
that, it's a
they
dry
ask you,
apology,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it? I'm sorry.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Nick. I feel like
Yeah,
if you
go
do
go
that,
for it.
isn't it like almost like a dry apology though? Like it doesn't that make it sound like in my mind I would think it'd be like less
Mhm.
sincere if I didn't like heart to heart tell you why I got upset. That was my reason for it. Like I felt like it
No,
wasn't
I'm
gonna be
nothing
sincere.
wrong with you. No, I didn't mean to cut you, Jizzle. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, it's all good. I just felt like it wasn't gonna be sincere if I didn't explain to him what my reasoning behind it was, and maybe it could have been like me making an excuse without realizing it. But I felt like I needed to, so he really believed me that I apologized. But yeah, I get what you're saying though. I get that.
And just because you gave a reason, that doesn't mean it's an excuse. You're making an
Right.
excuse, but we're more close and we tend to naturally do that, and we're just close to making an excuse or justifying. And and they interpret, if the goal is to apologize and like, yo, my bad, I'll raise my voice, da 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 da, like just pinpoint the things and like I apologize, you know.
That's exactly what my thing is right now. Just being first of all, just being able to process shit for me and keeping a thumb on my react button, you know what I'm saying, has been difficult. And even in my apologies, because a lot of times I think my apologies either come off really uh I don't know that they even come off right. You know what I mean?
They sometimes they sometimes be misconstrued as disingenuous, even
Right.
if that's not the case.
Right.
And like, yo, I had to train through this type of shit. And I
Right.
was like that was difficult for me. That was really difficult for me personally, not giving, because I'm one of those people that will tend to, over explain,
Right.
or, and all that. And I have to, and sometimes it does feel like, I got handcuffs, or it's like, all right, I'm just say the
That's a good
piece and
analogy because it does feel like a mental handcuff. It really
yeah.
does, because uh, you really hit on something, at least for me, because I'm finding myself apologizing all the damn time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I'm having a hard time discerning if the apology is even warranted. But I think maybe if I feel like it is, then that's something internally telling me that maybe I was out of pocket.
What if you're not
And
sorry?
that's what it's
What if you're
for.
not
That's
sorry though? Is
that's
that a
yeah.
bad thing?
Hmm?
I said, what if you're not sorry for certain direct things that you said to people? Like, is that a bad thing? Because like I think sometimes we say shit to people that like like a woman telling her brother that's on drugs, you need to get off the fucking crack. You're looking like you're acting like a fucking crackhead.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she ain't gotta be sorry for saying that shit. Like, so what if like there's the situations where you're not sorry about talking to people, you know, or
Then you
saying
shouldn't apologize.
Right.
You shouldn't apologize. But then you just got to eat the cost.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing, and that's what's tricky with us as humans and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I hear you, because, for me, it's like I'm good at atoning, but I gotta be convinced that I was wrong. And not hard. It's not hard to convince me, but I need to know that I'm apologizing for the right thing.
Do you
You know what I'm
convince
saying?
yourself? Do you convince yourself, or are you the type of person to, let's say, ask 2 or 3 of your close friends if you fucked up?
No, context is my superpower, so I'm pretty good at like seeing other people's side and being very well aware of like, yeah, I flipped out on that one. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm, like it's a strength that I got. So and I'm blessed for that strength and that type of training and practices and stuff. So I'm always good. Like I'm great in a crisis. Like I'm great in a
Yeah.
crisis. After the crisis, and I'm like, oh my god, you
Right,
know what I'm
right.
saying? But when the fire is burning, man, I'm good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? After it, then I'm a little like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
that's exactly how I am. Yeah.
you know,
Cool under
but I'm
pressure.
I'm cool. I'm always it's like okay, it's a thing. Like it's a real
You
thing
think that's
of
part of like our trauma,
yeah.
Nick? As far as like, cause I was just thinking like, I've been in a few situations after in the last couple years from when I was in the streets, and I've heard gunshots
Mhm,
and this shit. I don't take off running at the moment. I'm not freaking out at that moment.
mhm.
But afterwards, when I get to the house and I'm sitting there, it'll hit me and I'll be like, oh shit. It was like, just how you said afterwards, it'll like affect you. You think that's because of like our trauma? We're just so used to like shit going bad and going crazy that when it happens, we're just like, oh, okay, here we go again.
Man, you know what, man? I've personally been trying to figure that out. Like, my nephew asked me that the other day, and he was like, shout out to Jay Rockin. He got valedictorian, and he's straight scholarship, full ride to SIU. Wants to be a zoologist, so shout out to him. But
Yeah. Congratulations.
yeah, yeah, but he asked me the other day, he was like, man, how did you, because he's witnessed me do that. And he was like, was this something you was taught or were you always like this? And I was like, man, I think I was taught since I was a little kid, but I was so young that I just was, so it might be, man. I really don't know, dude. I honestly don't know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you just like, I don't know, like since I was little, like I've been in situations where like the cops would come and kick our door in and shit like that. So I'm like,
Well, those things manifest themselves in relationships, like for real. Like,
yeah.
and that's one of the things that like I'm learning in my journey and all of this, because I've had to unpack what feels like 189,000 suitcases. You know what I'm saying, of shit, and we bring all of that stuff into relationships. We bring all of that shit if we haven't dealt with it, if we haven't made amends with people or atonement. We bring that shit. We don't even realize we bring that shit. And that's why I was saying, like, is a steak worth a sizzle? If you're looking at somebody else and you want to keep that relationship, is it worth it? But then you also have to look at yourself introspectively and like, what are you bringing in that relationship if it's causing any fight or turmoil or whatever? What are you doing? What is your part in it? And when we were talking about the apology and everything, one of my biggest issues that I'm having right now is that because I'm fine. First of all, I'm finding out I'm an extremely emotional person. Like very,
Yeah,
very, very.
you're an artist. It comes with the job. You're an
Yeah,
artist, of
I'm
course.
very sensitive.
Every one of us.
Yeah.
Gizzo, like myself, you like, yeah, man. It's
Yeah,
like,
shit hurts my feelings super easy.
yeah.
Things, you know what I mean? Like, like music and everything else, I can kind of brush that shit off. But like in my fucking personal life, things hurt. I get hurt easily, and things hurt my feelings. I get emotional. But on that same note, I have this desperate ass need to tell whoever how I feel about it. And with that, then after I say it, I don't know, like however it comes out, then I feel like, damn, I need to apologize because my intent is not to upset the other person. My intent is just to like, I need to get this up off my chest because I can't just be sitting around thinking about this shit because then it'll fester, and I don't have that part of my shit under control just yet of not allowing things to fester and
Yeah.
overthink
Now,
them.
yeah, that part, that is probably like from our childhood trauma and stuff, to be heard, and
Hmm.
or to be seen,
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff is a part of it, like definitely, just to, and a lot of times like learning how to control that stuff, and then that gets frustrating, and
yeah,
how to control it and all of that. It takes a lot of practice, man. It's funny. Jizzle made me think of something when like the dude when the Misfits all used to live. There was a time when the Misfits all lived in the same like place. All of us lived in the same place, and the dude above us was getting evicted, but the cops came into our crib, and they had Mel pent up against the wall with a gun, and I was in the shower, and I was just getting out of the shower, and they came out, and they was yelling. They had guns. We was in Pilsen,
wow.
and and I was mad cool, and I was trying to dry up. I hear them yelling at Mel and like, all of this stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I instantly am like, wait, don't get dressed. Police are in here with guns. Don't get dressed. So I wrapped the towel around my waist, and and I came out like that. And Buddy was like, he was like, hold your towel. And I was, he got a gun on me. I was like, no, sir. I was like, no, sir.
Right.
And he was like, man, did that towel fall? I don't want to see that shit. Pull it down. I was like, no, sir. And he's like, why won't you fucking comply? He's cussing at me. And he's like, why won't you? And I was like, I can rap fast. So I was like, when the body is shot, the joints lock up. And then and so if you shoot me, you're going to have to explain to my mama why her son is locked up dead with his arms up naked and wet. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And he's like, he just looked at me crazy, and he was just like, and he just kept the gun on me. And then the dude, came, the maintenance guy came in. He's a Mexican dude. He was like, excuse me, you got the wrong apartment. You have the wrong apartment. It's upstairs. And he was like, oh, y'all good?
Y'all
And
good.
Mel was like, what? Yeah, y'all good. Our bad. And they just went upstairs, and and it was like, and so I thought about that when Gizzo was like, man, how we handle situations. In hindsight, though, man, I don't regret like some of the trauma stuff because it helped us survive.
Right.
It's just about making sure it's not weaponized against
And would
us
you
in our
say
lives moving forward.
because there is a mental state called survival mode where like from trauma and shit from a child that you're in, like you stay in this survival mode so that you behave in a certain manner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you explain that a little bit? Because you probably explain it a hell of a lot better than I can.
I mean, it's not really too far different from the fight, flight, or fawn. When
Hmm.
you're in survival mode, it's really simply put, it's what's comfortable for you. It's a
Right.
safety thing. So you're like, you know what? No different than the people like, I don't want nothing because
Hmm.
I ain't had nothing. So if I get stuff, they'll take stuff from me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like it's kind of that because it's familiar,
Hmm.
and what's familiar is comfortable for us. So we're in survival mode. We don't want to get we don't want to get caught lacking. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So we rather stay in survival mode. The problem with that is, I guess, not the problem, but some issues that you run up in survival mode is sometimes it hinders your elevation mode. You
Right.
know, and that's So it's always tricky, and you always gotta,
Well, it's even more tricky when you have
yeah,
two people that are in survival mode.
yeah.
That can be a very slippery slope. Just
I
from
mean, but
experience.
we cohabitate. If you're talking about romantic type relationships, we cohabitate with people we got in common. Like
Right.
two crackheads can, be together forever, ever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's hard for an addict to be with someone who's not an addict. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
But like when you're a recovering addict, more times than not, you got to get with another recovering addict.
Right. To balance it out, to be equally yoked,
Yeah.
as the Bible would say.
Yeah, because some people most people actually just they require that familiarity and that sense of like it's like why some people can't be in interracial relationships because they just need that understanding, and some people don't, and so they can be with someone that's of a different culture because they don't require that understanding,
Right.
or even that economic understanding, like what I'm saying, because
Yeah,
that can
economic
be a thing
understanding is a
too.
big
Yeah,
one. That's a big one.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
very true. I think like just from what I'm just learning daily, and you brought up something that I think it's overlooked a lot. Is practice, because all of this shit is like everything in your life is kind of like learned behaviors and shit. Not kind of like, they are learned behaviors,
yeah,
and in order to correct those learned behaviors, we got to identify them first. Whoops, shit. We got to identify them first, and then make the necessary changes. And the only way to make those changes, and it takes practice. You have to like, what's the face?
and that joint is hard. Like
Yeah,
Gizzo just said earlier when he was like, man, he was questioning, man, did I handle this right? Did I do this right? Let me check in. Okay, there's a better way I could have done it. I mean, he was like going to like loved ones and checking resources of like, man, like, did I do this right? Let me know. I felt cool, but I don't know if this is just me doing my knee-jerk reaction of what I'm trained to do, or if
right.
this was actually the right thing. And he was like checking. That takes time, and a lot
Yeah.
of people don't like to do that, or
Right.
don't want to put that
Or they
work in,
don't want,
or don't have nobody that they trust to even fact check it.
But the
You
steak,
know what
see,
I'm
for me, the steak was worth the sizzle, and that's why I took those additional steps to make that right, like within my situation.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'll go a little bit deeper, like, about it real quick. So I've always been like a person that, like, someone tells me something, like, unless, like, I already know it and I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, if I don't know it, like, I'll go check later on about what this person just told me to see if it was correct info, because I don't want to intake incorrect info. And
Right.
the person that I'm talking about kept saying things, and I kept saying, well, where did you hear that from, or like, where did you get that information? And it became to the point where I was just fact checking them on what they were saying, and in my mind, it was not like a disrespect. It was just like I didn't want to intake the wrong info, because on a few of those it was wrong, and
Right.
so, but like I said, I had to check my fucking self and be like, you know what? I looked at different people's perspectives about that situation, and there was hella people that been through that, hella situations, and I was just like, yeah, I need to not, if I'm gonna fact check it, I just don't say it there and then in front of the person. I go do it on my own later on my own time, and just look it up for my own self. But don't say that shit no more, like, to to this person. Don't question them no more like that. And you know what? Like I said, the steak was worth the sizzle for me, and it just
Yeah.
that's what it was. It was just I adjusted. You have to make adjustments sometimes. We all have to make adjustments. I mean, even, yeah, we all have to make adjustments. If we want shit to work a certain way, you have to. My dad used to say, "Meet me halfway." Meet me halfway. So
And I'll see that 50% and raise 100. You
Mm,
got to sometimes you got to meet them all the way.
right.
Like I had to, meeting the halfway. If sounds fair and it feels fair, but sometimes like, do we really want to be fair and with that? Because some of these people, you know, they not finna meet us 50 nothing.
50-50.
But
Yeah.
it's on us to meet them 100. I say that because man, I fell out with a relative. Really, I can say my cousin, like him. He was like my OG. Like he looked out when I was in Flint and when he was in the sticks and all of this stuff. He did 9 years and all of that type of stuff. It was, and we just fell out hard on some personal family stuff, but more so like for him, you know, he, I guess, like his words, not mine. He was a little jealous, like, because everything that happened with the Fitz, he felt like he should have been here with me, and it's hard for him to see people in my cipher, and it's not him. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? But I built this life. He was locked up, and then family stuff, and it just came a thing. It was trying to talk, and I was talking to my father about it because it just felt on my heart to like reach out to him. But I was like, and I was being egotistical. I was like, man, whatever. And then I just wish him well, and that'll be good enough. But we went like a year without talking, about anything. And my father gave me some wisdom. He was like, yo, man, don't even apologize. Just reach out to him. Just tell him you love him. And if he takes it, he takes it. If he don't, you just reached out, and that's good enough. And I just reached out, and we kind of just chopped it up. We didn't even talk about what we had fell out about, but I could tell he missed me, and I reached out to him. I missed him,
Right.
and then that was it. We didn't clear the air, but like made peace for me, and if he had some stuff he wanted to say on his chest, he didn't, but that's on him. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, you know, like, so it's, yeah, man, I agree. Some people though, they not gonna meet you 50. You gotta get them a whole 100, and then and just make sure your boundaries are set. You know,
Yeah. That's key. Boundaries. That's key. And then when you set your boundaries, you'll probably understand if that steak is worth the sizzle once you make your boundaries. Because if the boundaries get overstepped and stepped on all the time, you're gonna really realize that this steak probably ain't worth the fucking sizzle.
and you gotta ask yourself, like, because we expect it to be 50-50, like that's our natural expectation. But some of these people we have relationships with are not gonna meet us 50% of the way.
Right.
So is it worth the full 100? You know,
Right.
and if you know what I'm saying, like, and that's what everybody individually got to ask himself.
Yeah.
You know.
That's dope. And I think that pretty much summed it all up. And on that note, we'll go around the room. We appreciate you coming through, bro. We ain't seen you in a minute, man. Appreciate it. Mad love, mad respect.
I appreciate that, man.
And guess who's up? That's you, man. Final thoughts?
Oh man, final thoughts, man. Just try to exemplify context. I'm in a good mood. I had a lot of good stuff happening in the life, so I'm in a good mood.
That's what's up.
Plus my counseling sessions are ending for the fall, so
For
like
the
I ain't
summer,
gotta,
right?
I won't have to be sitting around like everybody's trauma for a while, so I get a little summer
To breathe a
break.
little bit.
I mean, I'm there. I'm still on site in case some kids need some help if they really, but I don't have scheduled sessions. So, and I'm like, Oh yes, I'm looking forward to something. But yeah, but I'm blessed. So yeah, people just just have just try to show, like, have context and true understanding. It's the best thing in these situations. And and try, and it's difficult. I'm saying it like it's easy, but it's not. It wasn't easy for me, it's not easy for everybody. But try to practice when you apologize, you know wait for them to ask, why did you do whatever you did. Just give them the apologize and just see how apology and see how that goes. Usually they will ask, but sometimes just try to apologize and don't give no justification until it's solicited.
That's good
Blessings.
advice. Ill for real. Last thoughts about today?
I think we still breathing. Same as last week. We still breathing. Take it day by day. Just do better. And yeah, when you're wrong, you're wrong. When you feel compelled to apologize for a reason, but sometimes things aren't your fault. So don't go apologizing for everything. Yeah, find those people that are worth giving the full 100% for. That's it.
I like that. Find the people.
In the
You,
famous
you're next.
in the famous words of Sister Act, if you wanna be somebody and you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. So pay attention if you're making those mistakes, if you're doing shit that's affecting other people, man. Like, be able to realize that you're doing wrong and take other options to, let's say, explore what you could do better, man, to keep that sizzle going if that sizzle is worth it. And yeah, just be self-aware of the shit you're doing, and that's pretty much it, man. That's what's helped me, is to just be more self-aware of what I'm doing in certain things, and I got a long way to go, but I'm working at it.
That's what's up.
Make sure the crop Gizzo singing that. And let's make that the intro for the show. That'll be the intro for the
We might
Yeah,
have to do that.
I didn't go as hard as I was supposed to. I was about to hit that note. Trust me.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to end the show with this, man. Is the steak worth the fucking sizzle? I think, thank you, D-Nick, for giving me that lovely phrase.
I got to put that in a rhyme now.
Yeah.
I got to put that in a rhyme now.
To me, like, if you are asking yourself that question, the only person that really knows that answer is you. If you're looking at that person and you believe in that person and you understand yourself, I think you'll know if that steak is worth the sizzle, if that relationship or however it stands, and what you're willing to compromise and what you're willing to deal with, what you're willing to be open to. And as in all relationship, this shit will not be easy by no means. So take that. Is the steak worth the sizzle? Figure it out. Talk to that person. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, man, thank you so much, D-Nick. We love you, brother. We also
D.
missed you over here, man.
Come back soon.
Yeah, this has been the check-in. It's been beautiful. Thank you, Drizzo. Love you, brother.
Peace,
Thank
bro.
you, Ill
Love,
for
man.
real. Love you, brother. Thank you,
100.
D-Nick, man. Blessings. Love you, brother.
Bless.
And we'll see you motherfuckers next Sunday.